Being on LinkedIn is not a strategy. Being in a Facebook group is not a strategy. Going to a conference is not a strategy. Showing up in these places is the prerequisite, but it's not the work. Be useful and be kind. If somebody has a question in a group or on LinkedIn or something, answer the question. Show that you know things. Show that you can be helpful. Show that you can be supportive and kind and empathetic. If you are feeling like this is salesy or gross or trying to take advantage of people, remember that the role here, the purpose of doing this is to be supportive, to help people.
Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor, the podcast. I'm your host, Paulina. In 2019, I was a political science professor who was fed up with the stress and hostility of academia, not to mention the low pay. I left my tenure-track job and went from barely surviving to thriving as a freelance academic editor. Today, I own Acadia Editing Services, an editing and coaching business that brings in 6 figures a year. In this podcast, I'll discuss the challenges of academia, what academic editing involves, and what life as a freelancer looks like. If you're willing to jump outside your comfort zone, it is possible to find joy, true flexibility, and a profitable and rewarding career as an academic editor. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor. I'm your host, Paulina. There is a sentence I hear constantly from editors who are trying to shift away from agency work or other low-paying work for academic presses and publishers. And they always say, there's no work out there. I want to be clear with you today, that is not true. It's not true that there's no work. There are a lot of places to put yourself in front of the people who need your help. And there are more of these places than most editors realize. And certainly more than I realized when I was just starting out and I was in exactly the same spot as you are if you're facing this predicament. What's true is that finding these places takes a bit of hustle, at least early on in this part of your journey. And that hustle is a lot of work, but it pays off over the long term. And the reason for that is that the connections and the visibility and the marketing strategies that you build in your first year of trying to land these private clients will continue to work for you for as long as you have your business. And so in my last episode, we talked about how there are 2 different tiers of the editing market. And we said that there's the lower tier, which is largely composed of clients who don't have the budget to pay for private editors or don't understand the value of paying more for private editors. And so they send their work to editing agencies. This is primarily in the academic market. And a lot of that agency work has been drying up because, from what I've heard at least, a lot of those agencies are using AI to do the editing of the papers. And so that work is drying up for the freelance editors who have been contracting with these agencies. But then we also talked about the higher tier of the editing market, where we find clients who do see the value of working with a private, talented editor just like you, and they don't want anything to do with AI. And so that is what we're focusing on in today's episode, is where do we find those higher tier clients? How do we put ourselves in front of them so that they hire us? And I'm going to give you some very clear, very specific ideas of where to find these people and how to move forward and try to start landing some private clients. So, to be very honest with you, and I mean no offense by this, but usually when I hear an editor say that there's no work out there, what I hear them saying underneath this is there's no work that's landing in my lap, or I haven't been getting inquiries and I'm frustrated about that. Or maybe even I don't know where to find work. And my response to all of that is work doesn't just land in your lap. People aren't going to just Google academic editor and suddenly find your website without you doing any work on your end to try to help them along and try to help them find you. And the good news, though, is that this is a solvable problem. Okay. And so today I'm going to walk you through where those clients are. I'm going to break it up into 3 categories, and then I'm going to give you some tips on what you can actually do and say once you find and connect with those people. So the first category that we're going to look at is warm connections and referral flows. And we start with this group because warm connections, or people that you have some kind of connection to already, as well as referrals. So maybe these are people that were, that you went to grad school with. Maybe they are past clients. Maybe they are people you know in your real life, but we'll talk about those more later in the episode. Maybe they are people that you worked with in a previous job or something like that. And then, of course, there's, other people who can refer clients to you. But those warm connections, we call them warm because you've already established some kind of relationship. Even if it's just an acquaintance, there's already some kind of connection there where people know you are a real human being. They know that you are a professional editor or perhaps a coach. And there's some trust already baked into that relationship. Even if it's not a strong relationship, it is very different from somebody who just happens across your post on LinkedIn or happens across your website and has no idea who you are. And we start here because of that built-in trust, because it's that trust that makes it easier for you to basically convince people to hire you. So when most editors think about finding private clients, they imagine strangers. And I just want to challenge that thought process. I want you to start, if you are having trouble finding private clients, or maybe you've never even tried and you just don't know where to start, I want you to start by making a list of your warm connections. So let me give you some ideas here under these warm connections and referral flows. First, you could think about your own academic network. You may not think that you have an academic network, but you do. This could be if your advisor might be supportive. Oftentimes they're not, especially if you're thinking about leaving academia or you've recently left. But if they are somebody who would be supportive, talk with them. Talk with your committee members, send them an email, let them know what you're doing. Think about people in your grad school cohort, people maybe in other departments in grad school that you had connections to, people that you met at conferences. Maybe you shared an office with somebody, or maybe you went to the gym in college or grad school all the time and you had friends through that. You never know what these people went on to do with their careers. Reach out to them. Maybe your friends on Facebook, send them an email, whatever it is, connect with them and let them know that you're an editor now or that you're a coach now. See if they need your help. See if they know anybody who needs your help. These are people who, like I said, they already know that you are a real human being. They already know that you are not a scammer. They probably know you can write. They know that you have some kind of professional credibility, and they know that you can help people. And so I think a lot of the time we assume that, we make one post on our personal Facebook about how we're becoming an editor or a coach, and we think that, suddenly everybody in our circle knows that that's what we're doing. But we are all of us humans are very self-centered. Not in a negative way, but we're just absorbed in our own lives. And most of the time nowadays, your friends on Facebook don't even see your posts. And, or even if they see it, they don't remember it, they don't absorb it. And so they forget. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to reach out to them by email, by text, by some kind of meaningful communication tool, not just a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post, and let them know very clearly what it is that you do, who you help, and ask them, can you share this with anybody that you think might need this kind of support? There's nothing to be ashamed about here. People love to help their friends and their acquaintances and their colleagues. Imagine if you got an email like this from somebody saying, "Hey, I'm starting a bakery in Chicago. Do you know anybody who might want to come by and try some of our bread?" Right? Whatever it is, I'm sure you think, "Oh yeah, I have friends in Chicago. They would love this." So, if the situation were reversed, I'm sure you would love the opportunity to help a friend or an acquaintance build their business. So other people are going to feel that way about you. The next group under warm connections and referrals is past clients. So if you have done any work at all for past clients, maybe you even took on some projects for free when you were first starting out editing or coaching. I don't recommend that people do that, by the way, but if you did, reach out to those people. Reach out to anybody that you've done any kind of work for at all and ask them if they have any other projects to send your way. Ask them if they know anybody else that they can refer you to. We think often that we're bothering people and by reaching out to them, and we think that we don't want to annoy them or pester them or push them to hire us again. But my experience has been that when you have somebody who has hired you in the past, they said they were happy with your work, often they're grateful to hear from you. Because if you think about academics, we get absorbed in our teaching and our service and maybe even our research, but our writing falls by the wayside. And sometimes getting an email from an editor that you've worked with in the past can be a little nudge to remind you, oh yeah, I've got those R&Rs that R&R that I need to respond to. And that's been sitting on my desk for the last month, and I really need to take care of that. Maybe Paulina can help me by, looking over the paper before I submit it. Or, I told myself I was going to get 3 chapters written this summer and I haven't finished any one of them. And, if I set a deadline for myself with my editor, that's going to motivate me to actually get the writing done. And so instead of thinking of this as, us being annoying and pestering people, we need to reframe our role as a strategic partner, as an accountability buddy, if you will, for our past clients, where sending them an email saying, hey, I was thinking about you. I wondered how that paper turned out. Do you have any other projects that you're working on that I can help you wrap up this summer before the semester starts? If they don't have anything or they don't want to work with you, they'll say no or they won't reply. But oftentimes that little nudge can be what they need, and they'll actually be grateful to you for reaching out to them and, kind of gently pushing them in the direction of getting these writing projects finished. Another approach you can take when you write past clients is to add on to the email, I'm looking to work with other scholars who are writing a book, or I'm also interested in working with grad students who are finishing their dissertation this year. You can throw in a more specific line like that, so that will actually jog the person's memory and make them think, oh yeah, I have a grad student who could really use this person's support. And so that is a warm connection because the person already knows you and they trust you. And if they pass your name along to somebody else, that person receiving the referral for you will be much more likely to trust you and hire you. The next group that we can think about as part of our warm connections is other editors. And this might not be something you've considered before, but something that we've seen work really well in our BAE community is not just people within the BAE community getting to know each other and referring work to each other. That's absolutely helpful. People do that all the time. But reaching out to other editors by connecting with them on LinkedIn, by connecting with them in the Facebook groups, having a little 20-minute coffee chat with another editor or a coach. These could be people who do similar work that you do, who are very successful. Maybe, if you get to know them, they will refer work to you when they have too much on their plate and they can't take something on. It could also be people who do different work than you. So maybe if you're a copy editor, you might reach out to developmental editors and let them know that if they don't like to do copy editing, send their clients your way. And building those kinds of relationships, even though so many of us work in different parts of the world and we don't see each other in person, building those relationships by having a little coffee chat can help put your name out there and help you make you more visible. Also, it can be helpful to think about people in this space in terms of your colleagues who do adjacent work to you. So maybe if you're a copy editor, you might think about people who are dissertation coaches or writing coaches, or maybe you see there are people out there who run writing workshops or who do some other kind of academic coaching. You can connect with them, have a coffee chat with them, and let them know that this is the kind of work you do. If they have anybody who needs this sort of thing, please send them your way. You might also connect with people in institutional settings like writing center staff, centers for teaching and learning. Get creative. Think about other places where your ideal clients spend their time and reach out to the people who run those spaces and connect with them, because it's all about connection. And people cannot refer clients to you if they don't know that you exist. Now, related to this point about where do your ideal clients spend your time, that is a great segue to our second group. So group one, or category one, was warm connections and referrals. And our second category that we're going to talk about is online spaces. So let me give you a few options for places online that you might not have thought about, where you can make yourself visible and connect with people. The first and the most obvious one is LinkedIn. The key here is that you should not just post on LinkedIn, but you should also connect with people on LinkedIn. People in my program in BAE, when I tell them this, to send connection requests to other people, they feel like that's creepy. And I have to reassure them that LinkedIn is not Facebook. It is not a personal networking site. I would never tell you to go on Facebook and send friend requests to a bunch of random people there. That would be creepy. We don't want to do that. But on LinkedIn, this is a professional networking platform. It exists for people to connect with each other, even if they don't already know each other. And so the key here is for you to think strategically and search for people who could be your ideal clients. So let me give you an example. If you are someone who works with job market materials, maybe you want to edit cover letters or CVs or whatever, do a search for people on LinkedIn who are likely to be on the market. Who are those people? They are PhD candidates. They are visiting faculty, visiting assistant professor, visiting instructor. They are postdocs. They are adjunct faculty, right? So search LinkedIn for those key terms. And when the list of people comes up, go down that list and send a bunch of connection requests to everybody who looks like they might be on the job market. It also helps that LinkedIn has that little green open to work banner. And so then you know that those people are on the job market and they're likely to need your help with these kinds of materials. If you are a dissertation coach or a dissertation editor, obviously search for PhD candidate. Maybe you edit or coach a particular type of client like moms or parents or neurodivergent folks or whatever. You can't search for moms on LinkedIn, but you could search for neurodivergent or LGBTQ or something like that. Some people put those descriptors in their profile as a way to identify themselves. You can search for those things. You could search for groups on LinkedIn. Maybe there's specific subfield groups that people are in. Maybe there's a moms group on LinkedIn. There's certainly the academic moms groups on Facebook. Get creative, get searching. And this is exactly the hustle that I was talking about is we cannot sit back and wait for jobs to land in our lap. It is not going to happen. You have to really use that creative brain of yours and think about where can I find these people and put myself in front of them. So think about who your ideal clients are, coming back to your niche. Who is it that you want to work with and support? And how can you search for them? How can you find them on LinkedIn and on other platforms? The other thing I will say about LinkedIn is related to posting. When you make a post on LinkedIn, you need to speak to your ideal clients. There are so many times that I see editors posting on LinkedIn, speaking to other editors. And often these posts are, I say this delicately, but the posts are self-pitying. They are something along the lines of, fellow editors, I haven't had any work in months. There's nobody on my calendar for the foreseeable future. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to quit. Do not write anything on LinkedIn that you wouldn't put in an advertisement. The purpose of posting on LinkedIn should be to attract clients. And you are not going to attract clients by talking about how your business is dying and you have no clients. No one wants to hire somebody who talks about that. I completely understand wanting to vent and have a friendly space to talk to. Go to the private Facebook editors groups and get the support there. Join some EFA groups, join some different communities with the ACEs and the different editors associations. They have Zoom sessions. Those are the appropriate places for you to get support. Do not vent your dirty laundry on air your dirty laundry on LinkedIn where your potential clients could be reading it. Okay. The next place after LinkedIn where you can find potential clients are Facebook groups. You can search just like on LinkedIn, but on Facebook, search for groups that are related to your ideal clients. So I mentioned academic moms. There are tons of PhD groups for students who are wrapping up their dissertation. There are tons of discipline-specific groups like sociology professors or political science or, whatever. Find the groups that are well managed, that have admins who pay attention. Many of these PhD groups in particular, you will join the group and you'll see a bunch of posts that are just spam. Don't waste your time. Get out of that group. Find the ones where the admins are managing it. Oftentimes, they will require your post to be approved. And so it's important to connect with the admins. If you're wanting to make a post that advertises your business, just send them a message and get permission first. Or spend time in the group answering questions and being helpful. Oftentimes in these groups, people will ask openly, can somebody recommend an editor? Can somebody recommend a dissertation coach or a writing coach? That is your opportunity to answer in the comments, hey, I'm an academic editor. Here's my website. And that alone is going to help you stand head and shoulders above other people who say, hey, I'm an editor, inbox me. That's not professional. That doesn't tell us that you're a professional. That's very sus, as my 8-year-old says. So, have your website designed well. I covered this in a previous recent episode. I'll put the link in the show notes it's about the story brain framework and how I use that to build my website. I think it's episode 90, but let me double check and put that in the show notes. And so be of service in those communities, in those groups, and, don't abuse the space by advertising too much. Other options are other Slack channels, Discord communities. You can venture into Reddit if you're brave. Spend time in these spaces being helpful. I actually have some blog posts that I shared on Reddit I don't remember if it was the PhD or which sub it was, but I still get people sending me messages on my website saying they found me on Reddit, and it's because they linked from some post where I shared a blog about, how to turn your dissertation into a book or something like that. So get creative. Think about where your people are spending their time. One more option before we go to group 3 is to check out other people's Substacks or academic newsletters or listservs. You might also add podcasts to this. So there are so many academics who are writing on Substack or some other newsletter platform. There are academic related and writing related podcasts. Reach out to the people who run these platforms and ask if you can write a guest post. Ask if you can be a guest on their podcast. Come up with some kind of topic to write about or to speak about that would be helpful to your ideal clients. How to turn your dissertation into a book. How to handle challenges with your dissertation advisor. How to write a book proposal. How to pitch to an agent if you're wanting to reach a wider audience. Whatever it is that you do, come up with some kind of niche topic that will help establish you as an expert in that niche and get your voice out there. All right, group 3 is in-person connections and IRL, in real life. Now, this is an area that you probably haven't considered, but I do want to encourage you to pursue this as a possibility for connecting with people and landing some new clients. I live in rural Maine, so we are absolutely not a hub for massive universities or research universities, but I am still able to attract clients by getting out of my house and talking to people. One very clear place to do this is if you have any conferences nearby, or if you're willing to attend, to travel to go to attend a conference. Many people in my BAE program have done this. They were going to a conference anyway for their academic job, for their discipline. They printed up business cards for their editing or coaching business. They took the business cards, they handed them out. You can set up coffee chats with people in advance. You can go to panels and talk with the authors after, talk with other people in the room after, walk around the book exhibit, talk with publishers. Sometimes, you never know, if you can connect with an editor or somebody at a press, maybe they will keep your business card on file. And if they have an author who really needs, has a manuscript that needs work, maybe they'll pass along your information to that author. Go to the poster presentations. There you essentially have a captive audience of, depending on your discipline, it's probably mostly grad students or postdocs. But walk down the poster aisle and talk to the people about their research. Hand them your business card. Give them a little piece of advice and let them know that you're an editor or you're a coach. Just strike up conversations with people and don't be scared. This is your business. You have to talk about it and share it with people. Other options, if you do live in a place where you have universities or colleges that are local to you, ask, a department or a graduate student union or some other, maybe a graduate coordinator in a particular department or whatever your niche is. connect with people on that campus and ask to come give a free 60-minute workshop to them, to their group. Ask to come and speak at the grad student union meeting. Whatever. Go if there's some kind of event on campus, like a job fair or something like that. Go to the campus and walk around and meet people and hand out your business card. There are so many opportunities for you if you live in a city where there are universities that you can go to these events and just talk to people. Other options are to pop into a department. Go talk to the administrative assistant. Give them your business card. Show them that you are a real human being. You are, I was a professor at blah, blah, blah. Now I'm an editor and a coach. Here's my card if you know of anybody who needs help with this. Anything that you can do in this AI age and this age of scammers and online junk, go and make a human connection with another person. Show them that you are real. Have a conversation, laugh, smile, be a nice person. And that is going to go a really long way to landing you clients in the long term. Okay, a couple of other options that you might not have thought of for IRL connections. Your local library. See if you can put up some business cards on the cork board, or we have a cork board where, they post papers about events and things. Ask if you can give a presentation for writers in that area. Our local library is fantastic. They host all kinds of workshops and presentations, and ask if you can come in and give a talk. Maybe, this is more geared towards non-academic writers. That's fine if you work in that space. Look for local writers' workshops and writing groups. We have local book fairs throughout the year. Get a table for $50 or something at the book fair and hand out your business cards. Have some kind of activity for people to engage in. Get creative. Think about what will draw people's attention and start conversations with them. Or just walk around the book fair and hand out your business card to all the authors. Anything else that you can think of, from the grocery store to your kids' play dates, sitting on the sidelines of the baseball game. Maybe you're at a dinner party. Maybe you go out to dinner or for drinks with friends. Just talk about your business. Talk about what you do. And in these scenarios, it can help to have a 10-second elevator pitch. I won't even say a 30-second elevator pitch, but something that is very specific and memorable, so that when people ask you what you do, you don't just say, I'm an editor. What does that mean? Nobody knows. That could be an editor of a newspaper. It could be a book editor. It could be an academic journal editor. It could be a copy or developmental editor. Nobody's going to remember that, though, right? So instead of saying I'm an editor, say I help academics get their dissertations and journal articles ready to submit. Or I help amateur writers craft their memoir so that their family remembers their story. Whatever it is, come up with a one-liner that is memorable, that will trigger something in that person's mind when you're talking to them and make them think, oh yeah, so-and-so would need that. My sister needs this. My neighbor was just talking about how she's working on this project. Whatever it is, make it memorable and have it ready to go so that when you randomly run into people, you can talk about what you do in a way that will make them think of people in their own network. All right. So now that I've given you a whole bunch of ideas for where you can put yourself in front of your ideal clients, I want to emphasize here what you need to do while you're in those spaces, whether it's in person or online or whatever. This is really important because being on LinkedIn is not a strategy. Being in a Facebook group is not a strategy. Going to a conference is not a strategy. Showing up in these places is the prerequisite, but it's not the work. It is not what makes the difference. Yes, you have to be in those spaces first to connect with people, but we really need to think about the strategy behind what we're doing and saying once we're in all of those spaces. So I would say wherever you are, be useful and be kind. If somebody has a question in a group or on LinkedIn or something, answer the question. Show that you know things. Show that you can be helpful. Show that you can be supportive and kind and empathetic. If you are feeling like this is salesy or gross or trying to take advantage of people, remember that the role here, the purpose of doing this is to be supportive, to help people. Sales is service. Okay. So if we can reframe that in our mind from thinking of sales as a way to take advantage of people and change that to think of sales as a way to serve people, that will make all the difference. People out there have questions. They don't have the answers to those questions. Many of these questions are complex and need more than just a Google search to answer them. Oftentimes, what people really need is support and accountability. And we can provide that. We can provide the answers. We can provide the support. And so when you are showing up in these places, I think it is crucial to think of what you do as service and not as sales and not as taking advantage of people. So the first strategy when you are showing up is to be of service. Also, I would say be consistent rather than intense. So oftentimes we will get into a place in this feast or famine cycle, which, by the way, is not a way to run a business. That is not how we should have to be running our business. These marketing strategies that I talk about in this podcast and that I teach in BAE are intended to stop that feast or famine cycle. But oftentimes the place that we get in is we suddenly see a drop off in work and we have a month where we don't have any clients and we start panicking and we like intensely spam these Facebook groups or we intensely write 10 different blog articles and post them all at the same time, thinking that that's going to make a difference. Or we post on LinkedIn every day, thinking that's going to make a difference. And it is not. We have to be consistent. If you have a down period where you have extra time, absolutely use that time to prepare your marketing, but use a free tool like Buffer that will let you schedule those posts out over the long term. So let's say you write 10 LinkedIn posts, schedule them out 2 a week so that you have the next 5 weeks of your LinkedIn posts covered. Don't post them all at once. Plan your marketing ahead of time so that you are consistently showing up in these spaces as opposed to intensely and frantically spamming these audiences because you're scared that you're out of work. Be consistent. If you are in a period where you have quite a bit of client work and you're busy, we don't want the marketing to fall by the wayside. We need to be continuing to keep that machine running in the background, which we can do through things like scheduled posts or scheduled blog articles. And that way, when the marketing keeps running in the background, when we're busy with client work, we're guaranteeing or we're trying to ensure and help make more likely that people will continue to see our messaging going out there. We'll be continuing to make ourselves visible. And those inquiries will start coming in while we're doing the client work. And then we'll be setting ourselves up for the next phase. Once this round of client work is done, we'll have people on deck or people queued up to work with us for the next month. All right. So the last thing I want to say is that you don't have to be in all of these places forever. Okay. That is not how we run our business. We do not frantically post in every single place and show up in every single place that I've talked about today. However, early on, I want to encourage you to try as many of these options as you can. pick 2 or 3, post there consistently, show up there consistently for a couple of months and see what happens. This is an experiment. We are scientists. We have to show up in these places. We have to run our tests for our experiment and collect the data. If you are posting twice a week on LinkedIn for 2 months and you don't get a single inquiry, we need to take a look at what's going on there. We need to revisit your messaging. We need to revisit your posts. And then if we make some tweaks for another month or 2 and you're still not getting inquiries, maybe LinkedIn isn't the right place for you. That's fine. We can find other places. So pick a few of these to start, test it out for a couple of months, make a few changes, test it out again, see what happens. Once you find 2 or 3 strategies that work, 2 or 3 places where you can show up consistently without burning yourself out, and you're actually producing results in the form of clients, do more of that. Don't feel like you have to keep experimenting with other things. When you find 2 or 3 things that work, keep doing that. Okay? And, just because some other editor is getting all her clients from LinkedIn, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You might have different clients who aren't on LinkedIn. You might have a style of writing that just doesn't do well on LinkedIn. We all have different strengths and we all have different styles. And there are plenty of options out there for us to pursue to find the ones that work for us. If you have listened to this episode and thought, wow, this is a lot of stuff to think about and I don't even know where to get started, then I'd like to invite you to join my 12-week program, Becoming an Academic Editor or Coach, BAE. Our September cohort is already over half full. There are just a few seats left. So if you're on the fence, don't miss this opportunity to join us in September and start learning how to do these things and how to start attracting more clients. When you join us, you get immediate access to the online course materials in our Slack community. So you can join at any time, even if you want to join a later cohort. We'll also have them in January and May of 2027. You can get immediate access to the course materials, the Slack community. That lasts for the life of the BAE program. And then you join a 12-week live coaching cohort where we meet as a group of 15 to 20 people every Friday at 10 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We meet for 12 weeks. And in those sessions, those are active coaching sessions where you get to ask questions and get personalized feedback. I give you exercises to help you define your niche. I teach you how to write marketing copy, to write in a way that turns website and post viewers into clients. And you have me and your whole cohort and community right there with you, helping you along the way. And I want to emphasize that this program is not only for academics who are just now leaving university or thinking about leaving and wanting to start a brand new editing or coaching business. It is just as much for editors who've been doing this work for years for low-paying agencies or presses and who want to start attracting your own higher-paying private clients. So coming back to what we started with this episode, if you want to break into that higher tier where there absolutely are still clients who want to hire human editors, you have to know how to market yourself. So if you like what you've heard here, go to acadiaediting.com/live. You can get the replays of my recent 3-day training that I gave earlier this month, and you'll get more information about how to join us inside BAE. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next week.
If you're unhappy in academia and you think you might be a good editor or writing coach, check out my course, Becoming an Academic Editor. This digital course is paired with a 12-week group coaching program to support you through your decision to leave academia or not, and to start building a profitable and rewarding academic editing business. Learn more by going to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.